Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series Accidentally Adopted. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. This is Part 4, Interlude. An indeterminate time in the future. What was meant to be a semi-private affair, a simple meeting between diplomats, was rapidly developing into a collision of several different factions at a point that is anything but typical. Everything except proper. On a late-night comedy show, a lumpy human man with a nose too small for his flabby face stared into the camera and split his jowls in a mockery of a smile. He was the host, the state-approved comic from Montreal 4 planet, an independent planet. There was a studio and a set and even a space for a studio audience. But the studio audience was just a collection of VIs programmed to respond to the jokes and commentary in the ways the Montreal 4 government approved between the recording equipment and the almost live broadcast equipment. The 60-second delay even gave the comedy minister a chance to oversee the reactions in case the VI started to get a little too intelligent. The camera pulled out to reveal the guest, a petite human woman with a very bad red wig on, and a comically large rifle prop across her shoulders. She sat with her legs splayed apart in a mockery of a masculine repose, and contorted her badly made up with fake scars face in a parody of a skull. And here is our very special guest, the lumpy state-approved comedian burbled, the fearsome and enigmatic, The Report. The audience at home heard a mixture of shock gasps and polite chortling. The Report grunted. "Thank you for coming in, oh mighty The Report," the actress spat to the side. "Good to see you again, too. What have you been up to lately? Killing?" the actress said in a faux masculine baritone of a woman mocking a man's voice, and even in the single word of commercial English, the stage accent was obvious. The audience giggled. I see, that is your favorite thing? Oh, yep. The audience started laughing harder. Did you assassinate Chew, then? Chew is our guy, so of course we ain't killing him. Busy killing Xenos. The audience roared with laughter as the actress made a show of chewing tobacco and spitting on the floor. That's right, I forgot Chew is a filthy Republican stooge. More laughter. Killing Xenos, you say? Why? Republic wants war with the Xenos. Got to try and unite humanity by getting them to attack CIP folk. The Minister of Comedy adjusted the laughter to shock gasps and smiled to herself. The sheep would think what she told them to think. The people of the planet largely ignored the broadcast, and the people of other planets either mocked or criticized it for what it was: blatant propaganda. Aboard an unassuming personal yacht, Amelia Doucette felt the butterflies in her belly, that unpleasant churning of unease that goes right through to your bones. Then again, it's not like she's ever felt an unease that's pleasant. In any case, her network of sources and contacts had been bombarding her with messages for the past few hours. That not only was the report found, but several big players were hurtling themselves towards the official event to welcome him home and open up diplomatic relations with these star sailors. She knew the story was going to be interesting, and that was the problem. A military journalist hates interesting stories, since they so often come with so many dead. On High Admiral Zokron's stately vessel, the High Admiral was attending to a duty that wasn't altogether unpleasant, but still ever so slightly tedious. Zokron was obliged to speak with Representative Nessus, or at least he thought the reptile's name was Nessus's. Jakku names have a lot of hissing noises in them. He was almost certain he wasn't mispronouncing her name. Still, though, he avoided it just in case. And they have said nothing about reparations. No, Representative. They have only sent some cultural data and translation protocols along with the first contact records. Nessus blinched and said, Our people have made a very poor first impression. All shall be well, my friend. It seems that these humans place a high value on the individual choices rather than the collection of racist choices. I do not expect that you go to meet enemies. I can't help from feeling shame at what their sneaky suffered through, and we are in debt to him for his actions, and in debt to your people for their part in the events. Let the past pass. Those who require judgment have gotten it. Those who needed help are getting it. in the enlisted mess of the Wendy. Pete had been obliged to pause in his reading once more, as a small brawl had broken out over who is the best Xeno again. Team Lucy had made a resurgence over how dutiful she had been in crisis, and Captain Dad Coalition were adamant that Captain Dad is not only the best Xeno, but also the best dad. However, the Linus Master Race was having none of it, and had turned to smacking their opponents with mesh trays for daring to insinuate that anything could rival how adorable and courageous Linus had been. Mom fans quietly stood in the background. Additionally, Eric had won the pool for Greg's hostile elimination count, since his guess was 400 hostiles eliminated being the closest. There was a minor controversy whether the accounting is accurate, since it was obviously a daily total for the entire mission, but credit and blame rise to the commander. He laughed at the low ballers and reminded them that Greg was always an Overwatch operator. That means teammates. The Linus Master Race beat him up for winning. Eric thought it was funny. On the bridge of the Wendy. "They're fighting again, Captain. Any injuries?" No, They're just burning off steam. Don't worry about it, Lieutenant." "Yes, ma'am, I'll try." "Their sense of humor can be rough amongst themselves. It's not something they need protection from. Protocol split them up for a reason. The reason is to keep the victims of underage combat from holding each other back. In their case, I think protocol was a mistake." In General Chest's personal quarters, the disgraced general languished on his berth with a hangover not helped by his rage at those googly-eyed fecks and their crappy, corrupt political system that allowed Linus to get kidnapped. He'd have to talk to the Admiral about a punitive campaign against the feckers. Then again, his boy had managed to rip the criminal organization to shreds on his own. Maybe he'd let the planet go unconquered if it turned out that they didn't waste his work. Whiskey is not a good water substitute, he thought to himself. On the speaking softly. Well, maybe I won't crack the station after all, the Admiral thought to herself as she perused the first contact records further. More importantly, the Xeno captain is a fecking miracle worker. Gregory George, an officer, and not immediately rejecting it. It was almost impossible to believe. More than his legendary accuracy. His legendary stubbornness had been almost a byword amongst the command staff for several years. When the report as an officer had even become a fun way of saying never. It seems that pigs can fly. In an office on loan from a petty officer, Dr. Johann was almost overcome with joy. As much as lifers had a place in this service, it was always good to get them to at least consider civilian life. Someone like Greg was on a ticking clock, however. When an operator clock runs out, he either retires, gets promoted, or dies. For his part, Dr. Johann was more than a little happy that his most difficult patient was considering options other than death. In the diplomatic suite, the ambassador was busy trying to come up with an explanation for such an inordinately high body count. She was almost certain the Xenos had an impression that humanity was a violent species, full of vengeance and barbarism. Well, it wouldn't be an incorrect impression, exactly, but it was her job to put a positive spin on humanity's flaws. A difficult thing to do, with just one human stacking bodies like cordwood after just one encounter with the criminals. She hoped that the Lost Boy hadn't managed to ruin humanity's chance at friends of the stars. In the CIP diplomatic convoy, once again the ambassador was the recipient of bad news from the covert agent. Of fecking course the report went on a fecking assassination spree. Can't have a government capable of challenging the Republic out there. These poor Xenos don't know who's fecking with them. But they will learn. Hopefully by listening to someone wise. The someone wise the Starsailors should listen to was, of course, himself. Who else? Aboard the Mercury. The oracles had spoken. The rightful emperor had reappeared. The auguries portended that the time was right to bend the knee to him, to beseech him, to take up the throne that he had conquered by the might of his hand and the thunderbolt of Jupiter. The poet Plutarch himself was on the bridge with the Praetorian Guard, who were under the impression that sufficient oaths and honors could entice the emperor onto his throne. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters, Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Dragzoon W.R.E, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.